Hello guys, welcome to another video, and in this video I'm going to be telling you guys things you need to do before stocking your farm with birds or with animals. You want to listen? Follow me on this video. Okay, welcome back. And so in this video, like I said earlier, I'm going to be telling you guys things you need to know before stocking your farm. There are things you need to know before stocking your farm, and this usually happens multiple times. And it happened to me when I started my farm, started my farm as a beginner, and I saw it like necessary to make a video about it and tell you guys what you need to know so that you don't make the same mistakes I made. Farming is about learning and growing every day. And so the first thing you need to know, I have to tell you guys one shocking thing now. You need to pray before stocking your farm, regardless of whatever religion you are, whether you're a Muslim, you're a Christian, or whatever. You need to pray. Pray for Allah's grace, pray for God's grace before stocking your farm. Now, why you need to do that? Let me tell you what happened to me. I stocked my farm with $315 thereabout about a month ago now, and sadly I lost all of them. I lost all 350 of them. Now the reason is that there was somebody who didn't like my farming, or how would I put it? There's somebody who didn't like the fact that I was farming. I was having a poultry farm, and the person is staying quite close to the farming building, and this person usually comes and makes evil incantations. Not until I discovered it, because I was so unhappy losing over $315. If you are into farming, you should know how much that costs by now. Over $315. And so I was kind of angry. I was not happy at all. So I decided to look into this matter with a different aspect, and I found that he was the one. Anyways, that is being addressed now. So I'm telling you guys now, the first thing you need to do is pray, so that in case there are any spiritual powers or anything at all that is that is not happy with your progress or the farm or anything, or any worker in your farm that is affecting your business, that's why you need to pray. So when you pray, God answers. So the first thing you need to do is to pray, and then the second thing you need to do is make ready the pen. And making ready the pen, one of the important things you need to do is make ready the drinkers and the feeders. You don't want to run out of water while the birds have arrived. You don't want to be shortage of feed. You want to make sure all these things are put in place, at least for the first 7 days. For the first 7 to 14 days, you want to make sure the birds are satisfied and everything is made available to them. So the one thing you need to do is to make ready enough feeders and drinkers. I have seen some people or some farms where I visited, they stock the farm with, let's say, 500 birds, and in these 500 birds you have, let's say, 10 feeders. That's too poor. You cannot have 10 feeders for 500 birds. Are you now saying that each 50 birds should feed on one feeder? Of course, that is too stressful. It's a lot of stress for the birds, and you will discover that at the end of the day there will not be a good harvest, because some birds will be definitely bigger, stronger than others, because you didn't give them enough feeders. It's not that the feed was not enough, it was that the feeders were not enough. The difference between feeds not being enough and the feeders not being enough. the feeders were not enough. So all the feeds were consumed by the other birds. Now, regardless of how you made your calculations, if you made your calculations that your birds are supposed to consume so amount of kg of feed per day, and at the end of the day you give them that amount of feed, but in the feeders that is not sufficient, you find out that those birds, some birds will not get enough of that feed, and the feed will be consumed by all other birds. And when you take a good look around the farm or in the pen, you will discover that the crop of some birds are way bigger than others. So you will now notice that some have overfed, and some are underfed. So you want to make sure that there are enough feeders and drinkers. So because they are day-old chicks, we don't want to trade their health or their satisfaction or their yield for any other thing that is as minor as lack of feeders and drinkers. That's number 2. And number 3, what you need also to do is make sure to regulate the temperature. I made this mistake when starting my farm. I don't care about temperature. I just make sure that they are in the cage, they have feed, they have water, and they have light. That is not enough. Make sure the temperature in the pen is okay, and you can only do this by regulating the temperature. Now there are brooders, there are common brooders on sale now. There are gas brooders, and these gas brooders do pretty good jobs. They do well. They do very good jobs. They make sure that the pen is heated, and the chicks at the average temperature, not too high, not too low, is average at their level, and they won't have to gather up in one place to seek heat or to be scattered around the pen for overheating. They just have to be scattered normally. So when you see that, you know the temperature is okay. And the best way to do that is to regulate the temperature by supplying. Usually, if you stay around Kano State, you will notice that especially during the rainy season, there is a lot of cold, and you want to regulate that temperature by giving supplying heat. You can supply heat through charcoal. Most common here around is charcoal. Heat through charcoal, and heat through gas. And gas brooding, you have gas brooders, or you can use charcoal pots. Pour in your charcoal, and try to regulate the heat. One of the disadvantages of the charcoal is that you cannot regulate the heat on charcoals. It is either it is way too high or way too low. It can never be at an average, because whenever you think it's an average and you leave, you come back and discover it's higher than that, because it burns, the heat is increasing. So the best brooding equipment that I would recommend is a gas brooder. It's a gas brooder. And number 4, make sure that their bedding is satisfied. What I mean by this, you cannot, I've seen some people, how can you put on a deep litter system, you are putting what's it called, sawdust on the floor for day-old chicks. You are creating problem for them. You will discover that in less than 1 week you will have a high mortality. Why? Because there are a lot of chicks, they cannot differentiate between feed and not feed. So when anything you give to them at that first time, they see it as feed, because they are hungry and they want to eat. So anything you give to them, they will just eat, because to them you have given them feed, which is wrong. So on the first 7 days, I recommend using what's it called, newspaper. I recommend using newspaper. That's what I usually use. use newspaper or use carton on the floor for the day-old chicks. Usually I leave it to 3 days. I usually leave it to 3 to 7 days, depending on the type of birds I'm bringing. If I'm bringing in, let's say, day-old pullets, of course I'll leave it to 1 week. But if I'm bringing broilers, it should not be more than 3 days, because broilers tend to poo a lot and they will make the environment unhealthy for them. So it's better if you are putting broilers and you're using newspaper or carton, make sure that they are out of the way by 3 days, or latest 4 days at most, at maximum 4 days. But if they are pullets, I usually leave my pullets to 1 week or thereabout before changing the bed for them. So you want to make sure that their bedding is okay. Don't use sawdust for their bedding. Just use newspaper or carton. And number 5, talking about my loss of Noilers, I also lost over 350 layers, and this happened due to transportation, because they were in a location that they were in an old farm. And so when I was relocating to the new building of my new farm, I tried to transport the birds, and it was during the rainy season, and during the course of transportation it was raining. And while it was raining, the driver who took the birds, who was transporting the birds, didn't have any tarpaulin or leather or nothing, so the birds were just open like that. All the rain was beating them in the transport crates. And I incurred the loss, I was trying to trace it. So 2 things that I noticed happened. Coccidiosis, they were attacked by coccidiosis, and coccidiosis comes with other virus included. So whenever your farm is attacked with coccidiosis, it only takes the grace of God to treat and recover from that disease with low mortality or with low loss. Now the coccidiosis came as a source of the rain and the transport crates, because I hired the transport crates, and the transport crates that were hired were, I don't know the history of them, so definitely they have transported other birds with that crate, which have carried different sickness that I don't know of. And so due to that, the transportation might have cost a lot, because it was after that transportation that I began losing these birds. The birds were so cold, I was trying to regulate the temperature, and a lot of things were just happening at the moment, and at the end of the day I ended up losing over 300 birds, over 300 of my layers. So you want to make sure that and this is one of the things you also need to know. You need to try to have some equipment. You don't have to rent everything all the time. Like the beakers, they are on sale everywhere. If you can't afford the bigger ones, there are smaller ones, cheaper ones you can afford. So you must not rent everything. Had it been I had my own transport crate and I had my own transport vehicle, I wouldn't leave them open for the rain to beat them. I wouldn't transport them in a crates full of diseases that I don't know. I will make sure the crates are well kept, and there are a lot of factors considered. So while you are growing your farm, one of the things to consider is getting equipment. Get your debeaker, get a lot of things. There are a lot of things you need to get. Your pH, your water pH of meter to check your water level. Get what's it called, scale to measure the weight of your breast. There are a lot of things you need to start getting while you are upgrading your farm. When you are improving, you are growing in your farm, you need to begin to get these things to avoid stories that touch. Okay, to avoid stories that touch. So number 5, you have to limit the entrance into the brooder or the pen where the birds have, at least for the first 7 to 14 days. You have to limit people entering the place, or workers, and that in my own case, I feel more comfortable inspecting the birds on my own. I feel more comfortable taking care of them on my own, at least for the first 7 to 14 days, because that way I have enough confidence that they are well kept. And so from there, before I can introduce any worker or anything, at least while they are brooding, and for the first 7 to 14 days, I prefer to have them under my watch. So that's it. So you want to go through these points. If you didn't, maybe I know the video is long and I've spoken about a lot of things. So if in case you didn't get anything, you can rewatch the video, replay it again. Make sure you like, make sure you subscribe this channel. One thing you'd like to do is that YouTube algorithms helps us to send out this video to any other people. So whenever someone is searching for a video like this, the YouTube algorithm makes sure that they get the video. They are able to search for the video and get it, and that way we can promote the channel and at least get some encouragement. And that's pretty much it for this video. So like I said, if you like this video, if this video has blessed you in any way, make sure you like, make sure you subscribe, make sure you share, so to invite others to be part of this success. So thanks for watching. See you next time.